Joining Cafecito Chats. Today we will be talking about National Convention is coming up in 34 days. 34 days, the excitement's revving up. So I'm pretty sure that you've seen the post from the SHPE National Convention website. And I am pretty sure whoever is on the line is interested in knowing, one, what do I do after I actually register? Well, you're in the right spot. We actually have a couple panelists who will be answering some of those questions, and I will be chiming in as appropriate, right? And helping and supporting that. But more than anything, we will definitely have some pre-canned questions here to go over, but we will open it up to additional questions from the audience. So hopefully that helps out quite a bit to all of you. And once again, thank you for joining Cafecito Chats. So today's topic is SHPE National Convention, questions, preparation, and logistics, right? So for this topic, you know that there's a SHPE National Convention is going to be taking place from October 30th, 31st to November 3rd. But honestly, it is coming up in 34 days. If you have your registration already paid, congratulations. If not, I encourage you and urge you to somehow go ahead and get situated and get your spot online to be able to attend this particular convention. Why is the convention so important, and why is it such a big deal to attend? Well, the convention at the SHPE national level brings about 230 industry representatives or big companies, name recognition, that are looking for underrepresented minorities, and SHPE will definitely help and guide you to go ahead and get that face time in front of recruiters. You can definitely bring your resume or submit your resume, and we'll answer some of those questions as well. But that's why it's very important. Aside from the career fair, there's also great networking opportunities. There's what you call hospitality suites for students, and they're sponsored by corporations, by companies, and the students can definitely meet and greet some of those individuals from those pertinent corporations. Also, you can definitely network with other professionals that are floating around, like myself and other individuals that will be there. This particular conference is very, very big because we're celebrating 50 years of SHPE. 50 long years and successful years that we are committed to continuing empowering Hispanics and Latinos in STEM. So that's why this particular conference is such a big deal, right? So today I have a couple individuals that are part of our panel. We have Valeria Hernandez. I don't know, Valeria, if you can introduce yourself. And she is the current junior representative vice president or Region 2 regional student junior chapter representative. I hope I got something along those lines correct. So Valeria, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, everyone. Like Lazaro said, I am, my name is Valeria. I am the Region 2 Junior Representative.
Right.
That is the title.
Yeah, right.
So what that means essentially is that on the Region 2 team, I help with junior memberships and programming for pre-college events. Outside of SHPE, I graduated from USC with my bachelor's in industrial and systems engineering, and I currently work at Accenture, and I'm very excited to be here and helping answer some questions about convention.
And she, as you heard, she recently graduated within the past year or so. So she's been involved in the student chapter from USC. She attended a couple conferences over the years. But not only that, she's also been in the planning committee for the SHPE National Convention. She's been part of NILA, the National Institute of Leadership Academy that SHPE puts together. So she's been up and down the spectrum of SHPE conferences and conventions. And right now she has a great opportunity and great position helping and supporting junior chapters, which is incredible. And for those of you that are in college, probably didn't have the opportunity to see junior chapters as you were coming up, or maybe you did. Well, she is the one that works behind the scenes for Region 2 at this point. And if you've heard about Equipando Padres, she's the one that actually has a big hand at play with some of those activities that happen at Region 2 at the regional level. So that's Valeria. And we also have Leo Soto. Leo Soto is a long-time SHPE member. He used to be the Region 2 vice president a couple years back. He's been up and down the spectrum. He was the National Board of Directors at some point at the SHPE national level, and he definitely has helped put on and supported some of those SHPE national conventions. So he's here to answer a couple of those questions as well. So Leo, if you don't mind quickly introducing yourself, I might have missed something.
Hey, thank you, Lazaro. As Lazaro mentioned, my name is Leo Soto. I'm mechanical engineering degree from Rutgers University. Moved to Los Angeles, and I currently work at Boeing as a structural design engineer. And I've been with the company over 12 years now, total. So I look forward to helping you, and that is experience SHPE across different levels, including multiple national conventions.
Awesome, thank you. And we also have Karen Santos, who will be joining us in about 10-15 minutes. So she did let me know that she was going to be running a little bit late, so we'll get to her when she arrives. At the meantime, let's start with Valeria. What do you do at this point if you have not, as a student or as a professional, registered your spot or secured your position for the SHPE National Convention? What should you be doing at this point?
That's a great question. I think first steps would be, if you are a student, contact your student chapter. A lot of them might be doing some sponsorships or have some codes or have some additional instruction for how you can register as part of like the group from your school that is going. So get in contact with your school's leadership, whether that be the president, vice president. Also make sure that your information is up to date. Like if you haven't renewed your membership for SHPE Nationals, do that in the meantime. Also, you can connect with professional chapters in your area. A lot of them have some funding to help students or professional college. So look at that, and I think Leo could also give some helpful insight as to how, especially on the more professional side.
Right, awesome. So Leo, passing it over to you. If you're a professional, and you have not registered and you're thinking, I'm going to wait a couple more weeks or a couple more days to secure my spot and whatnot, well, what should they do? And also, if they're thinking about requesting funding sponsorship from their pertinent corporation, how should they be able to do it? What should they be looking for? Any insight from your side?
Yeah, absolutely. As a professional, if you're looking to go to convention, even if you're thinking about it and you're still on the fence, you want to have that conversation with your company yesterday. All right. Sometimes it takes some time for those funds just to become available. So you might decide at the last minute, hey, I'd like to go to convention. You go to your manager and say, hey, I'd like to go to convention. Can you sponsor me? He's going to tell you, hey, guess what? Our funding ran out 2 months ago. You should have asked me then. Right. So even if you're only thinking about it, start the conversation immediately, as soon as possible. Second thing is then, obviously, I always tell people the selling point for professionals to get your company to sponsor you is, what are you going to be bringing back for the company? Whether you go to recruit for your direct group, are you going to bring back talent? What exactly is the benefit for your management to send you to this convention? So make sure you get that story entirely ready. There are tools available for you. If you ask the right people, there are templates and stuff, so you can have those letters of request to ask your management for that opportunity. But definitely start the conversation with your management and start looking to see what you are able to bring back to the company at convention.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. Now, let's assume that you've already registered and you're thinking, okay, what do I do now? I'm waiting, it's 34 days away. What should I be doing at this point as a student? Valeria, from your perspective, from your experience, what should you as a student be doing at this point?
I think one of the main things, if you are a student and you're interested in the career fair, which I'm sure most of you are, start prepping for that, whether that be getting your resume reviewed by friends, professionals, maybe your school's like career office, career center, get your resume reviewed and get your resume edited and up to date. And then get your resume on the SHIP Career Center platform. That's recruiters look at that before the convention to potentially send you like an invite to have a chat, have an interview, invite you to their booth, to hospitality suites, whatever it may be. Like recruiters are looking at those resumes before the actual convention starts. So you want to make sure that your resume is updated and it's also accessible to them through the SHIP, like the career. They send you a link when you register of like where you need to upload that resume. So that is a big action item. To make sure you got that ready. And then another big thing is if you want to kind of give your best foot forward when you are at the career fair, practice your elevator pitch, practice it again with friends, like your career center, anyone, but get that practice going so that when you get there, you know exactly what you're going to say and you feel confident about what you're bringing to the table. And then just familiarize yourself with the companies that are going to be going, like go onto the SHIP convention website, look at who the sponsors are, identify the companies that you're interested in that align with what you want to do, maybe identify the events that they're hosting. If they're like having a chat that seems interesting to you, make note of that, so that you can also prepare, because it will be a little overwhelming when you get there. Like there's so many companies, there's so many schools that are going to be there, and you want to like at the very least identify like maybe out of like all of these companies, these three really, really speak to me. And this is my approach for these three schools or these three companies, and then everything else I'll kind of, maybe the other ones I'll figure out along the way.
Awesome. Thank you, Valeria. Thank you. Leo, I know that there are some professionals that are actually going and some professionals that, let's assume that they secured funding, or some professionals that maybe are in the, they faced a reduction in force scenario and they're probably thinking, oh man, you know what? I remember SHIP, and they come back and they say, well, I'm going to hit the career fair. A lot of jobs are predominantly geared towards students, early entry, but do you suggest that they still attend, participate, and network to be able to possibly create an opportunity for themselves? And what should those individuals actually be doing when they are preparing for the convention as a participant? Leo?
All right, great question, Lázaro. So what should professionals be doing to prepare, and especially if they're looking for the career opportunities? At the end of the day, first they should attend, because although convention is heavily geared towards undergrads in terms of entry-level / internships, opportunities for professionals exist at all times. At these conventions, you're going to have a ton of hiring managers, a ton of HR representatives who are aware of the opportunities that they have available for professionals. As a professional, you should attend to network, to meet as many of these professionals as you can, because although they might not be hiring immediately for those full-time experienced positions, the opportunity to meet and interview at a later time may present itself because you chose to attend the convention. What should you do now is similar to an undergrad when they're about to go to convention. Research the companies that will be there, research the opportunities there are, but instead of looking for those entry-level / internship opportunities, you're going to be looking now for those experienced positions. And whether it's company A, B, and C, and you see, hey, there's a mid-level career opportunity available at company A, B, and C, target those companies, find out who the hiring people are for those companies, And you might just potentially network enough that you meet the right people and create the right opportunity for yourself. So yes, go to convention as a networking opportunity to leverage the people that you meet, and as well as explore the opportunities that may exist. And you may just open a few doors for yourself or for other people.
Awesome. Thank you, Leo. Thank you so much. There's something else that I saw her, and she's online right now. I don't know if you can turn on your mic, Emily Anne Vargas. Thank you for jumping in. I'm going to piggyback off. It's a grad student effort. We don't really talk about this. This is a relatively new track that has popped up within the last 5 years or so, from what I've seen, that is getting more traction. Can you share some insight as to what students or professionals will get by participating and possibly learning about the graduate student track? Emily? There we go. I see.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes,
Sorry, I'm
yes.
in the lab.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi. So basically, I think the common misconception with graduate school is that you are an undergraduate that goes immediately into an advanced degree. And there are different approaches to graduate school. For instance, if you're a new professional that wants to switch careers or wants just an advancement of a degree to pursue different job opportunities, promotions and the sort. The other thing that a lot of folks, I think, don't think about is you can be 14, 15 years out of your undergraduate degree and working in industry. There are opportunities to go back to school. So I think in the convention, the tracks will be covering some of these topics alongside what exactly you can do with a graduate degree. For some folks, there's a common misconception that with a master's or a PhD that you're limited to being solely focused on technical opportunities, but in reality, the entire programs itself are training you to think and being able to use those sort of skills in whatever job opportunity you're looking for, whatever disciplined field, be it government, national lab, industry, even academia, there are those opportunities available. And at the convention, there'll be panelists and folks that have those backgrounds and that you can network and get more information about if this is the right fit for you to pursue an advanced degree.
Similar to the career fair, there's going to be a lot of schools being represented there, and they actually cater to a lot of the majors that are available. And similar to what Leo and Valeria alluded to, networking is key. If you're pursuing or thinking about even graduate school, or maybe you didn't even know what graduate school, post-grad, or PhD, a master's program is, you can definitely approach some of those schools and inquire about what those programs are and get additional information and see if that is the path for you, right? That could be an additional benefit for you attending the conference. Well, let's assume that you already got everything squared away, you're good to go, you got your hotel ready. But what do you take if this is the first time, or maybe this is your second time? What do you actually pack? What do you actually pack? How do you prepare? You're going to be there for almost a week. What should you be doing in preparation for your physical travel? Let's assume that you're flying out of state or you're coming over to California. What should you bring with you at this point? Let's go with Leo first.
All right. What should we pack? Obviously, the first thing is all but obvious. You want to pack your attire, your suit, your business casual clothing, what you're going to be wearing on each of those days. Minimum, it's always one suit. You want to make sure you get that all packed in. You want to get yourself a nice little padfolio to carry your resumes in. And you want to bring enough copies of your resume as well, especially if you're a student or a professional, because, again, you're exploring opportunities here. And your resume is essentially your marketing device, how you're going to go to a representative, say, hey, here's my resume, hand it over, etc. A lot of people also can bring whatever personal use they have for their laptops. I know people like to make last minute edits on their resume, or they go get their resume critiqued and, hey, we need to make those updates. You want to make sure you pack that as well. And then obviously all the essentials when you travel. I won't get into those little details, but all the essentials needed when traveling, and just anything that you might pack that brings you a little peace of mind, bring that as well, because convention can be overwhelming a little bit. So make sure you just pack anything you needed essentially, and yeah, just make sure you are fully ready to go for these 3 days.
Awesome. You touched on the resume. I'm gonna come back to that one in a little bit, but I'm gonna head over to Valeria. What should you bring? What should you pack as a student? And this is gonna be your first convention. What should you pack?
Basically, everything that Leo said, something that I always like to have with me on top of that was like notebook pencil or notebook pen. When you're going to the sessions, when you're going to like any workshops and stuff, like you're getting a lot of useful information, and it's always good to take notes when you're there. Sometimes also like I can't, like, I don't know, like my Wi-Fi's not working and I can't pull up someone's like LinkedIn. I'll just write down their name and get their email, right? So it's always good to have the tried and true pen and pencil. I've also had like my resume reviewed when I give it in person with like feedback, and then have people like actually like physically edit my resume on the spot, so that when I get back in the hotel room, I can do the edits that they told me on my computer. So that's always useful to have. But yeah, like I said, your professional clothes, bring a spare of clothes. Like if you are planning on bringing maybe two blazers, maybe, or like one blazer, maybe bring two. Like I've had situations where like the one pant that I brought ripped or broke or got dirty, and then I'm left with like one pair of pants for the rest of the weekend. So just try to be extra, think of stuff like that, and maybe bring a few extras just in case. But yeah, and obviously your resumes, and somewhere to keep your resumes so they don't get bent or damaged.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Valeria. Thank you.
I just wanted to add just a note. Sorry about that. But just because I remember this, especially now that I'm a professional and was a student, two key things to bring just to make sure you're always properly fresh, etc. attire. Bring a lint roller, because those always come in clutch, especially when you're wearing a dark suit. And second thing, just lesson learned, bring always some kind of shoe buffer, because as you're walking around during the day in your dress shoes, they might get scuffed, they might get marked. Always keep those nice and presentable. So just two little things to add to your luggage when you're packing.
So a lint remover and a buffing kit for your shoes as a guy. Okay, good tip.
And on the shoe note, if you are a girl or someone who would wear heels, bring flats. Like,
okay,
realistically, bring flats for the whole day. And then if there's like a nice dinner or something and you want to wear heels for those, that's fine. But especially the days for the conventions, like where the career fair is happening and you're walking around the whole convention center from room to room, wear flats.
Okay. About, you mentioned the walking. I'm going to hit up Emily. Emily, can you talk about how much do you actually walk during the convention time that you're there per day?
Oh, man. Every time I look at my watch, it's at least 10 to 15,000 steps. Okay. It really depends on, one, I guess, how many booths you want to hit in the career fair, how many events you would like to go to. The Anaheim Convention Center is very large, and kind of what Valeria mentioned, to make sure you have comfortable shoes more than anything. You can make shoes look nice. For instance, there's some really, really good quality sneakers that are presentable if that's the choice you would like to go, but make sure that they are clean and presentable. But yeah, prepare to walk a lot. Bring water more than anything. One thing I've learned is, especially in the career fair, it's a madhouse with just a lot of bodies in there. So it does get hot. It does get sweaty. So make sure to keep that in mind of staying hydrated. And if you're someone known to have to perspire quite a bit, or, get a little smelly, keep that in consideration. If you need an extra change of clothes with you or something, so you feel comfortable, then include that.
That's a good.
And just a quick,
yeah, go ahead.
Really quick to add on to what Leo and Valeria said, I recommend a Tide to Go pen and a small sewing kit too. They had those travel size ones, because there has been instances where I had a friend that their pants broke in the middle on their butt, and they basically had to use a stapler to put it back together because they didn't have anything else. It worked, it did the job, but have backups just in case, or maybe plan with a friend that you know is going, for someone to have these sort of things versus others.
Okay, so a Tide pen, one of those stain remover pens, right? And then also a sewing kit, just in case something rips or a button falls from your suit, or something rips, and you can definitely stitch it back together however you are able to, right? So that's good advice. We also have Marilyn from Orange County. She's the president from Orange County, the professional chapter. Marilyn, from your perspective, I don't know if you can turn on your mic or not at this point. Do you have any advice on what to bring, what to pack in order for you if you're coming out of state to help and support yourself during the convention?
Hi everyone, I'm Marlene, the Region 2 Regional Vice President. I did want to add, I think you guys brought up a lot of great advice. One thing too that's helped me is I have a QR code on my phone. I actually have it as a screensaver, and that takes you directly to my LinkedIn. That takes you to anything I want to show. So if you are showing something on like a digital device, whether it's your iPad, having QR codes can be a quick access, and that way you don't have to like shuffle through apps and things like that. That can be another way of networking, connecting with fellow students and other recruiters as well. So I think having that too is also helpful, apart from having physical things that can help you, whether you need to tidy up your outfit, but also having just like QR codes.
Awesome. Awesome. Great insight. We touched on a lot of you mentioned the resume, right? But I want to go back to the original statement that was made by Valeria. You can upload your resume, right? So I'm going to be devil's advocate here. Why do I need to bring a copy or several copies of my resume? And this is going to the student. So Valeria first.
Yeah. So it's really important to bring your resume, because even though like they beforehand they'll have access to your digital resume at the day of the career fair or during the workshops, they're not like with their computer searching up the resume. Like if you go up to them and they're like, oh yeah, I submitted my resume, they don't have access to that at the spot. They're gonna have access to what you give them, right? So if you want them to remember you, they're not like, if you want them to remember you, they're taking a physical copy of your resume, not, look it up on the portal that you have when you get home, right? You want them to remember it now. And that's also helpful for them to like, maybe they did see your resume and they invited you to an event, but like they've also seen as many resumes as people that are registered, right? So at that moment, if you're talking to them and they had seen your resume even before at the convention, like you had already given them your physical resume, it's a good reminder for them to just like quickly glance and be like, oh yeah, this is Valeria. She was the person that did industrial engineering at USC. I remember talking to her. And it like, it's like also like just,
So it seems like she's breaking up for a little bit, so I'm going to shift over to Leo for the meantime. Leo, we talked about resumes, you talked about printing them, you talked about, let's say during the convention you go and you get your resume critique, and all of a sudden you get some changes, you're like, oh my God, I need to print another copy or another version. How do I do that if I don't have a printer with me? I've never packed it. So what do you suggest I do?
Great question. SHPE actually does have resume rooms in which you're able to print out a few copies for yourself. If that's ever unavailable for whatever reason, historically, I've always made note, where is the closest FedEx or facility where I can print out a few copies. It's just as simple as that. It'll cost you all but a few bucks. It's definitely something that, hey, if you make edits and you really think it enhances your resume, go print out those extra copies. You don't lose anything, all but 5-10 minutes of your time. So that's how you go about it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Great insight. There's a question comment in the chat. says, can you take a business-like backpack? Is that something that you can actually bring and take with you? What would you suggest, Emily?
I would say absolutely. The only thing to take into account is if your backpack is bulky, whatnot, one, you will probably be carrying it with you all throughout the convention. And two, especially when you're in the career fair, you could basically be an obstacle and be bumping into people. And you don't want that, especially because it's just so tight with all the folks and all the opportunities and career booths and whatnot. So I think taking into consideration, pack lightly your backpack, but bring the things that are essential for you to be able to succeed. When I will recommend, though, something that Valeria had mentioned, to have a portfolio or it could be a two-pronged folder, something very simple. If a portfolio is not accessible, have that out. So that way, if you're waiting in line or you're about to talk to somebody, you can quickly take out your resume versus, hold on, let me take off my backpack and get it to provide it to you. So I think that just take that alongside with if you are using a backpack, but absolutely.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. We assume that everybody's staying in a hotel and that everybody's coming from out of state and having a reservation nearby the convention center. Now let's tackle the fact that some people will actually be commuting from God knows where for how many hours, right? So what do you suggest those individuals actually do in regards of parking, in regards of when to get and arrive to the convention center and or participate in the actual conference? And we're gonna start with, let's see, Leo.
All right. So for those that are commuting out, I always make the strongest recommendation. Whatever your plan is to get there an hour or two early. Also depending where you're staying, right? So if you happen to stay in a hotel that's right there with the convention, an hour or two will be sufficient so you can be there for the beginning of the festivities, because the very beginning days of conference, that's the start of your networking. So you want to make sure to get there as early as possible to give yourself time to settle in, rest if you need to, and then make your way in. For those of us, obviously, who are traveling, driving long distances, typical, I always recommend carpooling as you can. If the hotel blocks are sold out, Airbnb is always a great option, or get yourself a local hotel. And if you're a student, you do the typical cram as many people as you can into one area, save yourself some of the financial responsibilities. But you always want to get there as early as possible. Convention does start Wednesday. Be there Wednesday. Professionals are already there in different forms, in different events, in different activities. So they're already there. One of your primary goals at convention is to network and meet these professionals. So you want to be there as early as possible. It's always preferable to stay as close as you can to convention. That way, if you ever need to run to your room, make a change, go to a store, print out your resume, etc., you can have it be accessible to you and still stay in close proximity to the convention.
Awesome. Thank you. Great insight, Leo. And welcome, Karen Santos. Thank you for joining us. You are currently part of the National Board of Directors. We're talking about how to prepare for convention. So right now, we're talking about the actual individuals that are commuting, right? From your perspective, what would you suggest those individuals that are actually commuting take into consideration if they're going to be commuting back and forth maybe an hour or two to the convention each day? What would you suggest they do and take into account?
Yeah, so the closest I have commuted was probably when we had the convention in Cleveland. We're going back and forth pretty well. There was a group of us that was a little far off, so we had to all pack day bags for the convention. So I would definitely recommend for any of the girls out there who might be considering wearing high heels, bring an extra pair of shoes that you can change into, something that you'll be comfortable, because you won't have the opportunity to be going back and forth. Same with males. Make sure you guys break in your shoes beforehand. I know there's what's that trick? You put stuff socks in there and then you blow dry them to expand it a little bit.
I hadn't heard that one, but okay.
But also just make sure that you have things that you will need for the day. So make sure you're packing your bag beforehand. If there are any chargers that you might need, any extra resumes that you might have, flash drives, think of things that you could carry with you that are portable and not very heavy. Something that I also like to do just when I go on trips in general that is helpful, especially in the conference setting, is bringing a little toiletry bag with you with some of those basic necessities that you might need, because you are going to be walking around, you're going to be eating, drinking, sweating. So it doesn't hurt to freshen up a little bit, because you will be making a first impression on a lot of these people. So you also want to make sure that you come your best foot forward hygienically as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. There was a question earlier. Will we have or need to have name tags or something to identify ourselves with? So I'm going to ask Emily if you can expand on the name tag aspect a little bit.
I think they're really cool, but not really necessary. Why I say that, they can be expensive. Also, a lot of them tend to be a magnet that you attach to your shirt. There's been so many times with the name tag that it's fallen off and I didn't notice, so I lost it, or all the sort of things. So if you do want one, I would encourage you to find one that will adhere well to your shirt, and you make sure it's in a location that is visible so people can see it. So for instance, if you have long hair, make sure that it is still visible if you have your hair down in the sort. The other thing is making sure that the shirt that you're wearing is appropriate for the name tag, because sometimes it may be in a location that will cause your shirt to appear a certain way, especially with the ones that have the pins on the back. Also take into account that it will make a hole in your shirt. So some factors to consider. I have seen some folks have electronic name tags, which basically will have their name in like little LED lights, and kind of like, those advertisement billboards basically that show their name like moving around and showing their university. That's really, really cool. Also a little extra if you ask me, but especially because if the person has to wait for it to finally get back to your name. You will have a name tag though with your registration badge. So you don't need one. And in the previous years, they did have a QR code on it where the person could scan it and find the profile that you made once you registered for the convention. If you're going to use that as your main source of providing contact information, let's say you don't have your business cards on you, you don't have your resume, but you do have your badge, make sure that profile is filled out all the way as thorough as possible. So in short, you don't need one.
Speaking about the actual name tag, will they still have the QR code in the name tags this year?
I would have to check. I'm not on the registration committee this year. I know the RFID, the tags to be able to track people around the convention center, I think that's still implemented, but I would have to check if they're doing the QR codes. I want to say yes, but I'm not entirely sure.
Awesome. Speaking about the actual badge themselves, it's a big item that's about this big. It hangs on your chest, and you have a lanyard, right? So let's talk about the lanyards and the color of the lanyards. And there's different colors, and they have some sort of meaning, some sort of a purpose. It's not just different colors for the sake of different colors. So I'm going to tag on to Karen. Do you know, and can you talk about the lanyards and the different colors and what they mean for the students, professionals, and or staff?
Yes, so I cannot tell you what colors specifically we will be using this year. As I know, sometimes it kind of varies by the year, but oftentimes what will happen is each badge or each lanyard will differentiate maybe what access you have to the conference. So let's say you are an exhibitor and your company is there to recruit. You might get a silver lanyard that will give you access to the career fair at all times, so that you can set up the booth and be with your counterparts. If you are a regional leader, you might have a different color badge, maybe a orange badge to differentiate that you will be leading certain sessions. If people need help, they can easily tag along and say, oh, that's someone that works at staff or within SHPE staff. I'm able to reach out to them for help. The other nice thing about the badges is actually when it comes to the career fair. So that the way that we like to use badges in the career fair is a way for us to kind of differentiate foot traffic when it comes to there. So in the past, something that we've done is if you have a blue badge, or a blue lanyard, excuse me, you're able to go to the career fair maybe 2 hours early the first day. And then it flip-flops the next day. Let's say you didn't have the blue badge, but you have a purple badge. Well, on the second day, the purple badges are able to go in and they have the first 2 hour access, and then the rest of the group goes in. So it really does vary. Make sure that you differentiate who is staff within those badge colors when we have them, because that will definitely be helpful for any questions or comments that you might have, or just if you want to maybe give someone a quick little elevator pitch, they're the good people to do so. They won't turn you down. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. I'll get back to the elevator pitch a little bit later on. Emily, you said that you were also part of the registration committee and you could possibly add some insight as to the lanyards and what they actually mean as well, to supplement what Karen actually said already.
Yes, so there's the actual lanyard itself, but then there's also the plastic holder for the printed badge as well. And those have a strip of color on the bottom of them that, what Karen had mentioned, mean different things. So in last year, I believe orange was for staff, volunteers, and VIP. There was white, there was a light blue, and I think a darker blue, black sort of color. And those also meant what kind of access you had, like how Karen mentioned. And one thing that we had some folks ask, well, what happens if we change our lanyard and we want to switch it to another color, or we want to trade with somebody else? I highly encourage not to do that, especially because, how Karen mentioned, they mean certain things. The red badges last year, or the red lanyards last year, meant career fair only for exhibitors, and some folks tried to switch it to get the white one, which gives you all access, and that is morally, ethically incorrect to do, but we can only do so much to prevent that from happening. But I can't emphasize enough, make sure before you leave your hotel, before you leave your house, you have your badge with you. There is a fee if you lost it or didn't bring it, and they will not let you into the convention if you do not have one. I think last year it was either $50 or $75 reprint fee. So keep that in mind, and hopefully if you tend to forget things, have one of your colleagues remind you, or do a little checklist before you leave the hotel or your house.
And if you're in the hotel, it's not a big deal because you just run back over a couple blocks and go up the elevator and you get it, right? But if you are actually commuting, like we talked about, and let's assume, Karen, back in the day when you were actually commuting, you forgot it. Oh my God, you got to go get out of the parking structure that you were probably in and drive for what, like an hour, hour and a half, and then head back for another hour and a half. You might as well just pay the $75 for a reprint at that point, right? Versus just going back and getting it. So just keep that in mind and be mindful. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the audience who's still with us if we have any questions from anybody that is possibly considering attending either as a professional or as a student. So let's see if anybody is brave enough to ask a question live here. Okay. Do we have any questions? If not, I have a couple more that I want to ask.
I have a question.
Okay, Daniel. Yep.
So this is going to be like my second time going to be at this National Convention. And what I kind of noticed there was everyone kind of like looks the same. Like you're wearing the same suit, you're wearing like same color suit, I don't know, same color hair. So how kind of like, and like it was very like kind of almost like kind of like crazy inside that convention. But what do you guys recommend like standing out, because like standing out from one another since everyone looks very similar? Like how do you stand out to like a recruiter or something? That's my question.
Take that one first.
So I have a funny story. One year, I wore these red pants and I went to like a Johnson and Johnson tech talk that they had. Because of those red pants, I was called on to answer a question. So be careful what you wish for. But I will say some things that are something subtle that you could do would be pins. Like if you have a pin that is relevant to maybe the university that you go to, or let's say you're a collector of, I don't know, postcards or something, and you wear a little postcard pin, that's something that could start a conversation and something that people don't really often have pins that are different or unique. So it could be something that you could differentiate yourself with. I've heard everything as simple as the type of resume paper you use as being a differentiator. So it really, I would suggest to you to be creative with it. Obviously, we do want to make sure that we are still dressing appropriately in an environment where, you know, we have to be professional, but it doesn't mean, let's say you have a really like maybe a more subtly maroon dress shirt or something and everybody wears black and white. Those are just little things that we can do just to differentiate ourselves in the ways that we look. But of course, a lot of it also depends on the way that we speak to people. How often is it that you really go to someone and just truly ask them about their day? Hey, is this your first SHPE conference? Have you been here before? Sometimes these recruiters are busy talking to people the whole day about themselves, about others, that they don't really get the chance to like just take a step back and breathe on their own. So even being mindful and asking someone like, hey, I've seen you've been on your feet all day. Do you want a bottle of waters or something like that I can help you with? That is a just genuine way to also make yourself differentiated from the pack.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Karin. Anybody else want to answer that one? Emily? Yes. And then we'll go to Victor.
There's two approaches you can take to it, one of which Karen had mentioned, the other thing as physical appearance, which I think, Daniel, that's what you wanted to get more information on. The few things that come to mind beyond the pins are if you like wearing a tie, having a funky tie. I've seen some people have, going back to like LED electronic name tags, I've seen some people have like LED ties, which I thought were really, well, one, you could see the person a mile away, so that's kind of cool. It's like, oh, hey, I want to go talk to that person. Cool socks. Socks are something that, especially when you're sitting down or if they're visible based off what you're wearing, that's also a conversation starter. Nice shoes, different accessories. I think so long as you're bringing your authentic self, I think at the end of the day, I've had some folks have indigenous backgrounds that wear the appropriate like jewelry from their respective tribes or their different, whatever you find that you're able to bring to yourself that is representation of yourself. So in terms of physical, those are sort of approaches. I would not recommend using different types of perfumes or colognes only because some people are allergic. And the last thing you want to do is talk to a recruiter and them start breaking out in hives and needing an EpiPen. Not to say I've ever seen that happen, but it can. In terms of making yourself stand out when you're at one of the workshops or something like that, or even at one of the breakfast table things where people are introducing themselves, something I found that a lot of people don't do is stand up and introduce themselves before they ask a question, before they make a comment or something. That I find, and it's unfortunate, especially if you don't say your name or what school you are in or what major or even what company you work for and the sort before you ask a question, and using your most powerful stance and pose as well as your voice to project for folks to be able to hear your question definitely makes you stand out.
Thank you, Emily. Great insight. Great insight. Victor, you have a question, sir? Victor Robles.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate it. The question that I had, somebody had kind of like mentioned, the question that I had, it was in regards of the weather. And if you're coming from out of state, I know that they're saying California is always cool, but I don't know. I don't know how how cold or how hot it is.
So for that one, if you're coming out of state, you're coming from Texas, California during the time of October, late October, early November, in the afternoon, you're going to be probably 65, 62-ish at that in the evening time, in the morning time. During the day, you could get up to 72, depending on the weather and the time of the day, right? But during inside of the convention, they'll keep it to a nice, comfortable 68-degree temperature. So just bring a light jacket. A blazer should be good enough because once you're going to be walking a lot. Two, you're gonna be probably carrying a backpack, so you will perspire a little bit here and there. So just be aware of that situation, right? If you're a person that loves the heat, then it'll be a little chilly. But if you're a person that tolerates 68, 70 degrees, you're gonna be just fine. California is just that way. We're at 72 and we're just happy as a clam, right? So I hope that answers the question. I do want to ask in regards to you as an individual going over meeting the actual recruiters, and you are a student or a professional that stood there for 30, 40 minutes waiting to speak to a recruiter. What should you do when you actually approach the recruiter? Leo?
Okay, thank you, Lázaro. What should you do when you get approached to a recruiter? A couple of things. First, you want to make sure you have a good, firm, professional handshake with the recruiter. Body posture, make sure it's on point. You're not slouching down. You're, kind of back straight. Make good eye contact and have your elevator pitch practice, rehearsed, and ready to deliver. Your elevator pitch is a brief 15, 20-second introduction of yourself, who you are, your major, and what it is that you're looking for from that company that you're speaking to. If you're looking for an internship or entry level, etc., make sure you have all that ready. So again, it's just a matter of your posture, eye contact, good handshake, and your elevator pitch all ready to go. And you go along with that. And then from then on, have your resume accessible on hand. So once the conversation starts and they ask for it, you have it readily available to hand over to them to continue the dialogue.
Awesome, thank you. That sounds very simple, very straightforward, but it doesn't happen if you do not practice. I know that Daniel, you and I were talking about before this session that we're thinking and we're working on getting a network resume workshop going for San Diego State. So for those of you who are here listening and or hearing this advice, I suggest that you, one, talk to professionals, talk to your school chapter and see if there's a resume workshop that is in works and you actually take advantage of that, right? How do you create and craft your elevator pitch? Go ahead and practice it with somebody and say, hey, does this sound good? And is it fluid? Am I, my sound level, is that good? And also the handshake. It might sound very simple, but it takes practice to actually get it. So, practice makes perfect. So I'm going to go over to Valeria to get her perspective on what to do when you actually meet some of those recruiters on the career floor.
So pretty much to echo kind of what Leo said, come with your elevator pitch prepared, but also to take it back to what Kaden said, when you show up and you meet them, and you have that first conversation, don't just immediately go into your pitch. Ask them, hi, how are you? How's your day going? Something very small, like a nice formality, but remember that this is a person too, and they're having, they have had a long day. They've, the same way you've been waiting, they've also been talking to people this whole time. So giving them a second to kind of break and refresh by just asking them how's your day going? Thank you for being here, something like that. And then lead into they'll be oh, tell me something about you. And then you can lead into your elevator pitch. That goes a long way too in making that connection more than just talking at them about you. So incorporate those small moments of getting to know the person that you're talking to more than just giving them your resume.
Thank you. Awesome. As a participant, you're going to have a lot of opportunities of networking at the convention every single moment you do, right? One of the biggest pieces of advice that I tell students and professionals that are going for the first time is as soon as you leave your house or literally your house and step into the airport, you're representing yourself as a professional. Carry yourself as a professional. You never know who's watching you, who the Uber driver knows, who is watching you at the airport terminal. How you behave tells people a lot about who you are, right? So assume that everybody's watching you as soon as you step out of your house. That goes to say that also there's hospitality suites. We mentioned it here earlier, and hospitality suites are literally sponsored by corporations to allure people and to invite them to a networking session. Those, to me, are a little bit of a trap, if I'm being completely honest, because they're trying to measure who you are and see who you are in a relaxed ambient environment, right? So when I say that is there's alcohol available and they're sponsored by the corporation, but be careful. If you are caught off guard, it could be a big deterrent and you could definitely miss some opportunities. So I'm gonna see if any advice can be given in that regard from maybe Karen Santos to the students and professionals.
So definitely do not consume anything if you are under the age of 21. That goes without saying. But I would say don't feel like you have to be drinking in these types of environments because there is alcohol involved. I know, especially for a lot of the students, my first time seeing a kind of a hospitality suite, I was like, whoa, this is different. But it is very, very normal and common in industry. I always try to keep it to the rule of one personally, but I do know that most of the time people who are comfortable, as long as you're sipping water and making sure that you're continuing to hydrate in between, 1 to 2 would be like a very respectable amount of drinks, probably no more than that, especially if you are going to be going to different hospitality suites throughout the night as well. You want to make sure that you are hydrating, ensuring that maybe you have a buddy there as well so that you guys can leave together, come together. And know those environments can be somewhat intimidating. So just making sure that you have like an accountability partner if that's something that you want to make sure that you're hitting different hospitality suites at certain times. Maybe having someone that you can go and do that with is not the worst idea.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Any additional advice from Leo, Valeria, or Emily at this point? Emily?
I want to add that there will be food, lots of food at these hospitality suites. I get it. We all love free food, especially if we don't have to pay for it at, in expensive places in Los Angeles. I highly encourage you not to get the meatballs or the wings, things that are really messy that what if you accidentally drop it on your shirt? It's like, well, I have a meatball mess here. Either A, I can make a conversation starter with it or be completely embarrassed the entire time that I'm there. Another thing that I highly encourage, if you aren't familiar with common etiquette, especially when it comes to being in a more professional environment, I highly encourage you to look into that a bit more. What do I mean by that? Well, not speaking with your mouth full with food, making sure that you're not taking really large bites. And actually someone in Southern California does offer etiquette classes, Mina Martinez. She does, I think, offer Zooms as well. That will be a huge resource for you all in case you don't know certain things. I'm sure there's also Google to offer insight with that. But in short, make sure not to grab food that is messy. Make sure not to grab a lot of food because you may drop it. And more importantly, just make sure you have hand sanitizer, I think, with you as well in the event your hands do get sticky or you have something on them so you're not spreading the buffalo sauce to the recruiter that you're speaking to.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Great insight. And we're literally out of time, so we're going to go around the room with the panelists. Leo, any final words of advice?
Just be ready, be prepared, and always be on your best behavior. You are being watched at any and all times at convention, and you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself. So always be ready and be prepared.
Awesome. Thank you, Leo.
And good luck.
Thank you. Valeria?
Do your or make sure you like put in the work that you need to do to make sure that you're showing up the most confident version of yourself, and also use the resources that you have. Like I'm sure all of the other panelists as well as myself, like we're happy to help you if you like want an extra eye on your resume or just want to practice your elevator pitch. So make sure to utilize those resources as well.
Thank you, Valeria. Karen?
Yeah, definitely reach out. As echoing Valeria's point, I know I wasn't able to be with you the full session, but I'm more than happy to connect one-on-one. I did do a boot camp at one point for National Convention, although it was hybrid. At that time, I am very happy to give you guys some expertise on what I know, and maybe we can get more people together and definitely hopefully meet up at convention together. That would be kind of cool. Flick now beforehand and then flick at convention. So hope to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Emily, any last words or advice?
Well, I'm the unofficial panelist here.
No, you're fine.
A couple of things that come to mind are if you wait to the convention to start actively applying for jobs, to start making networks and connections, or wait to the career fair, you're already too late. So start ahead of time. Now is the time to do it. There's, almost a month.
34 days. 34 days.
34 days till the convention. Make those 34 days count. And the other thing I would take into consideration is to practice as much as you can to the point where it comes autonomously to you, and learn how to describe yourself without saying anything on your resume. Because at the end of the day, you want to bring your authentic self to any job opportunity, any interview. At the end of the day, that's what's going to get you that job or that internship or that graduate school admission.
Thank you. Thank you to the panelists, Valeria, Leo, Karen, Emily. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your input. A couple words of advice to close it out is literally as soon as you step out of your house, you're literally representing yourself and your school and or your company. So always act professional wherever you go, whatever you do, however you speak, right? Represent yourself in a high manner and always take care of yourself. How to stand out, be sure to bring your authentic self. Going back to the comments that were made, if you love to wear red or pink or blue or something like that, make sure that you bring that to the table, right? You as an individual can dress professionally, but still find those colors that represent who you are. As well, bring copies of your resume, tailor it to 1 or 2 or 3 companies that you really want to hit, and make sure that you have separate copies, but know which copy you're going to be handing to which corporation. Make sure that you have the right one on hand. When you actually meet the recruiter, be courteous to them, be human with them, understand that they're also human and that they're doing a job, but at the same time, make sure that you do not take too much time trying to find your resume when you're trying to pull it out of your bag. Going back to a comment that was earlier made, make sure that you have it handy, and if they ask for it, go ahead and hand it to them or have a QR code ready for them to actually read. But don't assume that everybody knows how to use QR codes. It's easier, going back to Valeria's point and to Leo's point, to hand something physically and have it be able to make an impact right there and then. So with that, I hope that this quick session, 1-hour session, was beneficial to everybody, and I hope to see everybody at the convention. Have a good one. Gracias, Leo, Valeria, Karen, Emily. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Hasta luego. Bye-bye.